So we begin our first two Greek verses of the week. And we begin, go ahead and see if you can pronounce it. And here's how I would pronounce it. Statheste ho Petros, suntois endeka, or hendeka, eperon, tain phonein autou, kai apef, kai apephthenxato, he thinks, autois, Andres Judaioi kai hoi katoi kuntes Jerusalem pantes tuto humin gnoston esto kai enotisaste ta rematamu. Verse 15. Ugar hos humes hupolambanate hutoi methuusin estingar hora trite tes hemeros. Okay, now try to translate it. And here's how I would pronounce it. And Peter, having stood with the 11. Now, this having stood is a bit odd because it's an aorist passive participle. See the theta epsilon. Having been stood. Anyway, the word stand, it's not deponent because it's histemi, but it just doesn't, the passive meaning doesn't seem to work here. So this just is the way the word is used. Peter, having stood with the 11, eperon, he lifted up the voice of him, and he announced, he declared to them. This word, as I said in my lead-off video for the week, has a sense of, I think, divine pronouncement or prophetic utterance. He uttered to them, men, Jews, and the ones dwelling in Jerusalem all. This man, this to you known, let it be. Let it be known. Let this be known to you, and heed the words of me. Verse 15. For not as you suppose these men are drunk. These men are not drunk as you suppose. For it is the hour third of the day. It always cracks me up. Of course they're not drunk. It's only 9 a.m. If it were midnight, that would be a reasonable, thought. Anyway, okay, so there's the verses for the day. Let's do a little unpacking in an interlinear fashion. Okay, having stood, again, I'm translating it actively. Although I suppose you could do, and having been caused to stand, but it just seems to mean having stood here. Peter, having been stood with the 11, he lifted. So this is epeiro, which iro is, it gets, in the aorist, it gets squished. You lose it's alpha iota rho omega, as we'll see on the next slide, or the 2 slides from now, loses its iota in the aorist, and then it augments in the aorist. So there's barely any of this word left. The eta rho is what's left of the core of this, and it's compound, so epeiro. Nu with an epsilon in front of it's almost always a movable nu. Epsilon is very common, third person singular, past tense active ending. It is aorist, so it's past tense. It is active. He lifted. What did he lift? He lifted the voice of him, and he pronounced Xi. Xi is the key to hidden sigma. So we have hidden sigma alpha. This is aorist. The third letter is the augment. It's from apophthengamai, so it's deponent. So we're just going to translate it actively. Even though it's aorist middle, we're going to translate it actively. And Peter pronounced to them. Capital letter means it's a quote, direct discourse. Men, Jews, and the ones dwelling in Jerusalem, all. Jerusalem is a loan word, so it doesn't change its endings. I guess we could construe this as dative, a dative of location, but it's a loan word, so it doesn't change endings. Participle here, my aunt is an active participle, S is nominative masculine plural. The article never lies. Nominative masculine plural. Present, because it's katoi kao. All the letters are there except the epsilon is crashed into the of aunt. Epsilons and omicrons, when they crash, form a, ooh, look at the crash. And the ones dwelling in Jerusalem all. This to you known, let it be. This is an imperative. I have it parsed on the next slide. This is the third person singular imperative of a me. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be known. And heed, you can see the sigma alpha. It is indeed aorist, but there's no augment. This is the actual letter. You know, it's the real hair. It doesn't come off. And so this is an imperative. It looks exactly, actually, to be honest, it looks exactly the same as the indicative would look, because when you augment that omega, it becomes an omega, because omega is already long, so it doesn't become long when you augment it. Anyway, so it's a command. Heed. Look at the size of that heed. No, different kind of heed. Heed the words of me, neuter plural alpha. Okay. And it's a ma noun, which unlike my ma, who just had her 92nd birthday yesterday, unlike my ma, these are all neuter. So it's a neuter plural. The words of me. For, procrastinator, for not as you suppose these men are drunk. The not goes with these. These men not are drunk, as you suppose. So this is a little comparative clause, I guess we would call it. These men are not drunk. Demonstrative pronoun. Present, this is a good old present active indicative third plural from probably Methuno. Actually, is it? I'm pretty sure it's present. Methuo is what it would be. Yeah, all the letters have to be there. For it is our third. It is the third hour of the day. The day begins at 6, so the third hour is 9 a.m., which is also when they began to crucify Jesus. I don't know if Luke wants us to see some significance in the fact that the day of Pentecost happens at the same time of day that Jesus was crucified. I don't know if he wants us to think that or not. Okay, some parsings here. Stathes is an aorist passive participle. The theta epsilon clues me to it being aorist passive. The sta, stand, has me cues me into the histemi. The nominatives just have to be memorized. Now that I think of it, I had thought about doing a nominative chart for this video, but I forgot. So no, you're not going to get it. But the nominatives, lu, on, u, sa, an, amenas, amene, amenan. Those are the present. Lu, sa, san. Those are the aorist active. Samenas, samene, samenan. Those are the aorist middles. Lu, thes. There it is. Thesathen. Those are aorist passive participle nominative endings. So this is nominative masculine singular. Okay, this is from epiro, as I mentioned. The iota goes away in the aorist. The alpha augments to an eta. And then we go with the past tense ending. So it's aorist, second aorist, no sigma. Liquid verbs don't do sigmas. And this is a rho. It's a liquid verb. See how it flows for as long as you have breath? So liquid verbs don't do sigmas. Epiro, it's a second aorist of epiro. Aorist active indicative third singular. There's this word. C is the key to hidden sigma. Hidden sigma alpha is aorist. Amen, ueta, third person singular. Middle, but it's deponent because it's from apothengamai. Okay, and it's indicative third singular. Okay, esto, present imperative third singular from Amy. Let it be. And then lastly, this is aorist because of the sigma alpha. It's middle because of the st. Oh my, it's deponent. So we're going to translate it actively. Heed, and it's imperative. Context tells me that. I guess the indicative would look exactly the same as I said, because the omega, when augmented, becomes an omega. However, we can construe this omega as unaugmented, because imperatives don't augment. Well, there you have it. Little run through these two verses, Acts chapter 2, verses 14 and 15, I believe. Thank you for playing with me today.